Joining me live now, Satya is an advocate in the Supreme Court. Avishkar Singhvi is also an advocate in the Supreme Court. Thank you very much, Mr. Muley, Mr. Singhvi, for your time here on NDTV. Satya Muley, I want to come to you first. The Luthras say that they are also victims. They say that there is nothing they could have done to stop this. They say that they should also be given a hearing. They say that they went to Phuket on work. They say that they have a habit of booking last-minute flights. Almost every one of these submissions that have been made by their legal team in court in pursuance of anticipatory bail, Mr. Muley, is ludicrous. Is ludicrous, and almost factually, it can be disproven. How is this happening? How do you see this? How are they able to even say such things in court through their lawyers?
It's completely ridiculous. It's just that, they are victims of some rotten thought processes. They are demonstrating to the court that they, in first place, do not want to cooperate with the investigation, do not want to fall in line as per the requirements of the law, and now they are playing the victim card. This is absolutely unacceptable. How can they claim victims when they know that their place is on fire? They have to be present there offering cooperation if they themselves feel that they are victims. At the same time, how can they justify that they have broken laws related with environment, laws related with labor, fire safety, sound, and they also have not obtained various NOCs that are required to operate such kind of a place which has got a narrow exit. It doesn't even have a fire exit. So what kind of a victim card? There is absolutely no justification. The courts have taken cognizance that they have run away. Somebody who runs away cannot play the victim card. I'm sorry.
Avishkar, can you help us understand this? Like I said when I prefaced this discussion, to say that everybody has, is entitled to be considered by the legal system. But even a cursory look at some of the things they've said in court are plainly ridiculous. That they have properties in Phuket, which we find that they don't. That they are also victims in all of this. Can you help us understand this?
Thanks for having me on your show, Shiv. Firstly, I'd like to send my condolences to the 25 families who've lost their lives. It's absolutely unpardonable, inconsolable. No kind of public apology or no kind of national level protest would ever redeem this kind of loss for the country. It's a national loss. But I just only want to highlight and allow me to put a counterpoint without accepting or without identifying with that viewpoint, if I may say that. See, this is a case where severe lapses, there have been severe, facts, there are extraneous events, them running away. I assume all of that against them for a minute. But would this case still fall under 304 or 304 Part A is the legal question, and that is all that the court has to look at. The facts that happened after the event would not be of much relevance for one reason or the other when the ultimate analysis of the trial goes on. For bail, yes. For bail at the moment, and I've been informed, I've not read the order. I must say that as a caveat, that I've not read the order, but the bail order which is before us has already said that it's been dismissed, the anticipatory bail, which was a transit bail in Delhi Rohini court.
Yeah.
But I'm just making that clear. But however, the larger question that arises is that when you book someone for culpable homicide not amounting to murder, you have to show that they had a knowledge that their actions are likely to cause death. That is a very, very high threshold to cross in law, and most of the cases that we have seen mostly would finally get a conviction under 304 Part A. So the ultimate test would be, of course, the other provisions in law and the other proceedings in law would take their own course. Like lack of CRZ clearance would be prosecuted by the CRZ authority. The lack of license by the local panchayat. Now look at the deeper rot in the system. This highlights and this actually puts forth before us how many other restaurants in this country are running without these permissions. How many other nightclubs are running without these permissions. That is also something to be looked at. And how many of these authorities are complicit the local authorities, the panchayat, the government, and everyone has to take blame equally. Of course, today the persons would have some sort of vicarious liability. I'm very seriously, and I'm not defending them for a minute.
I understand that.
Get me wrong.
Yeah.
I'm only saying that we must look at it from a logic, because innocent until proven guilty.
I take your point very seriously, Avishkar. I understand. Now, I'm not a lawyer, but I would only say that somehow it doesn't feel like the liability is vicarious. If the buck stopped with them, and if they were the proprietors of this place, if there are demonstrable and visible lapses that have emerged now post facto, including the fire license or any number of other NOCs that were proven to be improperly procured, if I may use that word. I am just wondering, why they are not directly responsible for what happened. Satya, Muley, yes, Avishkar has a point about whether culpable homicide or not, and it is on that basis that this bail has been sought and lately dismissed. But doesn't the buck stop with them?
Yes, of course. See, culpable homicide not amounting to murder has got certain ingredients for the offense to be satisfied in the eyes of law. And one of them is contributory negligence or willful disobedience of law. So if at all it is proven that whether it is CRZ, whether it is fire compliance, whether it is labor compliance, whether it is any other compliances which were not followed by these two chaps, and that has led to this kind of a fire, which would have in other case prevented, or for that matter it would have been contained to a much smaller level, then of course they are directly responsible, and therefore they are not being held or accounted for murder, but culpable homicide not amounting to murder, and this has to be definitely come out in the trial. It cannot be proven today. At this stage, they have to submit themselves to the investigating agency to establish whether there is an iota of doubt in context to their liability towards the mishap that has happened, and whether that is actually a mishap or it is a result of complete negligence and disobedience of law for which they are directly responsible.
Yeah. No, and I'm glad, I'm personally glad that Avishkar raised the issue of the system and, the infrastructure in Goa itself. I did a full show yesterday, Avishkar, and I will send you the link in case you missed it, which was about precisely this, about the mafias that run and practically force businesses to operate in this way. So make no mistake, this isn't about the Luthras alone, but since it is the Luthras who own that nightclub and they have suspiciously made away from the country 90 minutes after that tragedy went down, one is constrained to wonder whether the legal system will take a dark view, as it were, of their actions after this tragedy. The fact that they went away, the fact that they're making these excuses saying that this was a work trip, the fact that they booked tickets at the last minute as a matter of habit. Well, do these things sort of come up for consideration at all?
No, well, let me make it very clear. I'm also an officer of the court.
Yeah.
I will make it very clear that the legal system will take this with utmost seriousness, and it will make sure that it reaches the end that is rightly required in this sort of case. And I mean, with the best defense lawyers, I'm sure that the judges would take this matter with the utmost seriousness and with the level of expedition that is required. Having said that, one must also remember the nature of activities in a state like Goa, which is a state where a lot of these areas are functioning without the requisite clearances, and actually they are functioning in that shack rural urban mix.
Yeah.
So Goa is a special situation. I mean Delhi would still be in a better position. And the level of compliances here in say a Khan market as opposed to a Goa. We've all been to Goa and we've seen the level of operations that they have. They're not sophisticated at all. So one must also wonder whether the panchayat and the local authorities are granting permissions on what sort of consideration and what is the kind of application of mind at that level. That's the other point to be considered. And the level of compliance. See, when it goes from culpable death by negligence to culpable homicide, you have to look at the degree of lack of compliance. When the degree of lack of compliance is very, very high, you can possibly argue what my friend Mr. Muley has said on the show, that it may be culpable homicide not amounting to murder. But when the degree of compliance is at a level where, look, I have applied for something, but it has been granted by the authorities. So you always have a defense available that, look, the authorities ought not to have granted that. So I'm just putting all those things out.
No, that's a very important point that you make. And Mr. Muley, before I come to you, I just want to point out this latest picture that we've got on our screen of Gaurav and Saurabh Luthra in Thailand with with policemen and police officers who've detained them. This is the latest picture that's coming in. It's only the latest one that NDTV has put out. We've brought you, first and exclusive, all of the inputs, all of the pictures, all of the news breaks on this developing story. But Mr. Muley, coming back to you on a point that Avishkar made, if culpable homicide not amounting to murder is what this is going to be about, it's going to open an entire can of worms. I agree with him when he says that the Luthras, in whatever manner that they are liable for what happened at Birch Romeo Lane, it will open a can of worms. So many people will be directly and indirectly involved for facilitating what finally happened on Saturday night, Mr. Muley.
Well, it doesn't matter whether it is one person who is held liable for non-compliance of the law, or there are hundreds of people who are liable for non-compliance of law. That is not a parameter to decide whether they should be held liable for, culpable homicide not amounting to murder. In fact, I'd like to point out that this is not a one-odd incident. If we just look at last 5 to 7 years, these kind of incidents are happening. Karol Bagh restaurant fire, then Delhi and Surat coaching classes fire. We have seen in Mumbai, we have seen the rooftop restaurant fire. So these are all time bombs ticking. It is a systemic failure, and the modus operandi of these people are to save cost by hook or crook. And the first thing that they try to do is to do non-compliance related with law. They try to create a structure with certain material which is of temporary nature, but highly inflammatory. They do not comply with various other regulations, including environment, fire, labor, or for that matter, taxation. And it's only about profit. The safety of the patrons is thrown to the winds. And having said this, they absolutely do not care about what happens behind their back when this kind of an incident happens. We have seen this in the past. All these incidents, the owners have always taken a shelter that this was a mishap. Eventually, the law has caught up with them.
Avishkar, final word I'll give to you. Do you want to add anything to that or rebut anything on that? Well, last word to you.
I'll definitely say that, we've had these incidents in the past, and we can take guidance from a lot of cases that have happened, such as the Opar or the Rajkot fire incident, or where the children died in the hospital. And we can see how the courts have laid down precedents in those cases. But, negligence is always very, very expensive, and it's dear to human lives. And it takes very little to actually avoid it. But we must look at the entire systemic change that must be implemented at a larger level, and how that is the real question to ask ourselves, and whether the authorities are really doing their job. That is what I would say as my closing comments.
All right, Avishkar, Singhvi and Satya Muley, thank you very much. I agree that there's a very specific case we're talking about here, but there's a larger malaise that cannot be ignored. But the two cannot be separated, but they both must be pursued with equal vigor, and that's something we will definitely do here on NDTV. Thank you, gentlemen, for being with me.